as a man, I feel that it gets a little bit difficult sometimes, and you hold a lot of things inside because you don't know how to express it, and you don't know how other people are going to feel when you talk about your emotions and your feelings in certain situations, whether they're good or bad.
Men should be strong. Then you're a boy, like boys don't cry. Boys should be doing this, doing that. So it's really embedded. It's like it's a inception that we get since we're kids, you know. So we get older, and removing that from our head, it's super complicated.
Traditionally, men are not able to articulate themselves, right? It's a sign of weakness. It shows a vulnerability, but I think that's obviously that's not fair, and man deserves the same amount of compassion and same sympathy to be able to be understood, to be heard.
The nature of what we do in an industry, like being chefs and being bartenders, it's very abusive to ourselves. Like we burn the candle at both ends. We all work crazy hours. We all then go out and socialize crazy hours.
You want to be in the kitchen, you need to be tough, you need to be strong, you need to be fast, you need to, you're pursuing a dream, so that means you have to work a lot and move forward and never complain, and just things are like, that's the way things are, you know, so don't complain.
You're not really encouraged to seek help, we talk about working as a team, but personally, I don't think it's common for chefs or F&B workers to be looking for help from others, especially men.
At some point, you can stand it, but we need to face it. We need to face that we're humans, and we all have problems, and we all have ups and downs.
My father was also one of these people that didn't really talk about his feelings, so I also consider that I learned a lot from him as well as a young kid, and kind of I held things in as well, all my emotions, and whether they were good or bad, I would always hold them in.
I know my dad was a pretty tough guy. My dad was a policeman, so it's hard. He always had a tough exterior, so maybe it was harder to sort of break past that and see him and be open.
My dad, he struggled, and I feel like he's been struggling throughout all his life to try to be this kind of a super strong and person that he thinks everyone wants him to be. I love my dad, but there's few things that I always say, like, I don't want to do this, you know, because I know what was the problem, so I'm breaking those cycles. So a lot of the problems that you might have at the moment might be problems that your parents transfer, and your problems go to maybe those problems because of your grandparents. If I still remember, like the first years of my childhood, he was like super tough, and then he got retired. Maybe he was not really used to be around us, like someone like a lot of like to spend like so much time with us, and maybe he changed completely like, when he got retired, and it really changed the whole family structure, you know, like it really helped him to be more open with us, with his problems, with his stress, and it just helped us to make a better bond between me, my sisters, and him.
Yeah. So I have a 7-year-old son. He's going to be turning 8. His name's Axel. Yeah. As he was younger, we found that he was a little bit different to the other kids, and then as he turned like 3 or 4 years old, we kind of checked to see what was going on, and basically he has slight autism, and basically it was at the beginning I didn't really understand it. For me, I didn't really understand. I'd never experienced anything like that before, so I found it quite difficult, and I think the part that really took us to the next level in our relationship with me and him was basically because I accepted it myself. I researched what was going on. I looked into so many different YouTube videos and people talking about their children as well that are in a similar situation. And I realized that actually he's just a wonderful, beautiful boy. To me, going through this whole process with Axel, I think that me personally as a human being has changed as well. And the way not being so insecure about situations, I think men are quite insecure sometimes when it comes to like emotional situations that they're going through, they feel a little bit insecure about it as well. And I think for me, it's really opened me up as a human being as well. So me and my son have both gone through this journey together, I think I was kind of like a one-minded person at the beginning. Like I was only thinking like, okay, you have a family, you have a child, and your family should look like this. It should be like this. It should be this way. But it was of course, it was a whole different experience. And I think that for me is like a lot of people, they live their lives, trying to show themselves as this particular person, but things can be different, and like if you have a child that's autistic, it definitely changes you as a person, and I think I've changed as a person, definitely.
Starting from when I was architect, being constantly feeling like I might not know what I'm doing, and working with people who are excellent in the industry, looking at how they work, and all the way going back to even college, learning from professors I deeply respect, and just having this constant fear that I don't really know what I'm doing, I don't have the proper knowledge, I don't have the talent, what it takes. I guess the realization is when I stumbled upon a book written by my most beloved, my most respected professor, Michael Altman. And he, in the book, he was talking about how he felt like an imposter his whole career. And it blew my mind. I never thought, because the amount of confidence, the amount of, the way he teaches us, the way he sends his message, the way he nurtures us, I would never even question his legitimacy, and I would never think he doesn't know what he's talking about. He seems to always know what he's talking about. Yet in the book, I learned for many years of his career, he wakes up the same way I do, worried about someone's gonna point out, hey, you don't really know what you're doing. And the same mentality, I guess, it get carried on to being a chef. Especially, I didn't go to any culinary school. And I guess imposter syndrome is just very common for everyone, but it's just the amount of how good you are at hiding it. I think among friends, it's also not a topic we casually talk about. Once you had that conversation about something deep, right, and then this friend will just be a little bit closer, and it will make more conversation easier and more in depth.
November last year, I got diagnosed with diabetes, which is not too bad that I can't reverse it, and I'm currently working hard on reversing the diabetes, which means me changing my diet, means me changing my whole lifestyle. As a bartender, I was a big drinker. It's not something I can do anymore. I was a big foodie, but again, I can't go and indulge, and I can't go and just eat what I want anymore. I have to be very conscious of what I'm doing. I've had to rely heavily on my girlfriend, and that's not something I've ever done before in like past relationships. I've never really leaned on my partner like this, but because of the nature of what they were, I've really had to rely on her. Really had to trust her. Had a couple of surgeries where she's had to be the person that decides big things for me. But yeah, I've learned, especially this last 6 months, I've really opened up to the idea of sharing these problems and giving them to somebody else to necessarily deal with or to help me deal with. I think as I've got older, I found it a lot more easier to open up and a lot more easier to rely on people and to show emotions to the people that I need to show my emotions to. I think there's definitely been a gear change for me in terms of how I am now and how I was. You're not holding anything in, so you feel a lot more free. Your mind is a lot more clearer because you're not trying to deal with things internally. So by sharing the problems, it just makes it half the size straight away. And but yeah, for me, it's made me a lot lighter. It's made me a lot more carefree. I have more fun, to be perfectly honest, now than I'm trying to stress about things that I don't need to stress about.
We're humans here, and we all have problems, and we need to find a way to solve these problems.
You need somebody else to bounce these things off to sort of get a better perspective. So by sitting there on your own and just keeping it in, you don't really get a rounded opinion or a rounded view of your problems or what you're trying to deal with.
And if you're holding a lot of emotions in, I think that you don't really think very clearly because you've got so much going on in your mind. I think releasing things and talking to people just gives you that release.
It just made me feel better, made me think, oh, I'm not alone in this. There are other people like me. And if the people I respect so much are working on it, there's no shame that I'm working on it.
I think it's so important to open up, to just give yourself a break. Give yourself time to think things through in a more clearer way. Having that person or a friend that you can rely on is really important. I feel like the more you sort of give, the more you can sort of work out for yourself, and you can make yourself the person you want to be. I feel like the feeling of being a failure is you're going to fail if you don't share, in my opinion. You're not going to deal with the issue, you're not going to deal with the problem, and it's either going to snowball and get bigger, or it's just going to dominate your life to a point when you start hurting other people because you've not dealt with that problem. I don't see any failure personally from me being open to the idea of letting others help me. I feel like all it's done is enhance my life. It's made it a lot better.